There's only one option. No. You're done. You're done. You're done. You are done.
So there was that chaotic scene as Lee Zeldin, who's running for governor of New York, was confronted, attacked. Everybody went down on stage there just last Thursday. So of course, as this went down, they pivoted and started talking and characterizing this entire event as a Democratic scheme, a plot. But not only that, but also a bit shining a light on the bail system there in New York, because a big twist at the end of this story, which I can't wait to get to, is this guy then was freed very quickly, easily, without bail, and it must be outrageous. Outrageous, especially after this horrendous attack. There's many layers, so let's jump right into it, because this attack took place, again, like I said, Thursday night outside of Veterans of Foreign Wars Hall near Rochester, where Mr. Zeldin was holding the first in a series of weekend campaign stops. As the candidate was discussing public safety and rising costs of living, a man who was later identified by the police as David Jakubonis, I hope, slowly approached him. Mr. Zeldin, a four-term congressman from Long Island, was not injured. Others, including his running mate, the former New York City police officer Allison Esposito, rushed the stage and wrestled the man to the ground. Mr. Jakubonis, 43 years old, of Fairpoint, New York, was charged with attempted assault in the second degree, according to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, and released on his own recognizance. Released on his own recognizance? Since 2020, under New York law, judges have been barred from setting bail on the charge of attempted assault, a nonviolent felony. Previously, prosecutors would have had the option to request that Mr. Jakubonis be held on bail. So this response, again, as I mentioned, from Lee Zeldin and his campaign, started here as they tried to spin this for some political gain, which I guess you could expect. This is what they said. Someone tried to stab me on stage during this evening's rally, but fortunately I was able to grab his wrist and stop him for a few minutes until others tackled him. That's what Zeldin said, putting the attack in the context of his tough on crime campaign message. Again, from him, I'm as resolute as ever to do my part to make New York safe again. Also, New York Republican Party Chairman Nick Langworthy tweeted this out. Only in Kathy Hochul's New York could a maniac violently attack a candidate for New York, for governor, and then be released without bail. This is what happens when you destroy the criminal justice system. Again, it's Kathy Hochul's fault, and he was released without bail. Also, there's a couple primetime Fox News hosts that were also startled by this, and they characterized it this way. Let's watch.
Last night, the GOP hopeful and sitting congressman was viciously attacked on stage during a campaign event by a man with a deadly weapon.
Lee Zeldin was attacked while campaigning yesterday with a man with like brass knuckles and daggers affixed to the knuckles.
How about that dagger with brass knuckles affixed, or daggers affixed to those brass knuckles? I think this is where we're gonna get some gray area, and I wonder if we're gonna disagree. So let's get the details of what that was. This weapon used in the attack on Republican New York gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin appears to be a plastic keychain fob that looks like a cartoon cat's head and is marketed for, quote, self-defense. The weapon resembles the My Kitty plastic self-defense keychain weapon, which is designed to mimic a cat's face with holes for its eyes and other cutouts for its nose and its whiskers. It's very cute. Pointed cat ears make this keychain tool, this is from their website, the perfect for self-defense. That's according to the Home Security Superstore website. So this weapon bears a Made in USA stamp and it's sold for $10. It's also offered in some cool colors, pink, red, white, purple, and the site describes it as very stiff and strong, stylish, compact, and lightweight, and easy to use and carry. Let's get a picture of it as we go to what you think of this, Jessica, because my first thoughts are, as people were thinking and talking about this, it looks like a cute keychain, and how could this possibly be a weapon? It's a weapon. I'm sorry, it's a weapon.
Yeah. A funny weapon to use in this case. This reminds me of Rudy getting sucker punched recently.
Yes.
What happened to tough guys coming from New York? I'm from the tri-state area. No more tough guys in New York, I guess. But Lee Zeldin is from like the tip of Long Island, super bougie area. It's where Montauk is, lots of mansions and boats. Just not an area of a lot of crime. Rochester, however, I've lived in Rochester, New York. Slightly more crime. And you know what? The problem here is not the criminal justice system, obviously. Being exposed to this kind of violence is something he's clearly not used to. He was not stabbed. That's not something that stabs you, it's a little pointy, but it's more similar to brass knuckles, which, by the way, blaming Kathy Hochul and saying this is about our criminal justice system is insane. Because in New York, it is illegal to have brass knuckles. It's illegal to have a knife. But apparently, thanks to the Supreme Court, it is legal to conceal carry a gun without a permit, which is crazy because he wants to repeal the SAFE Act if he gets into office as governor of New York. And so to say the streets of New York are not safe and people are running amok, actually no, the weapon that was used in this case would be illegal to carry, but he thinks people should be able to carry guns. So backwards.
Imagine if it was the scenario that he was liked, and it wasn't this brass knuckle pointed defense tool that can do some damage. I'll say again, but something else that he's looking to allow more folks to have concealed and sneaking up on stage next to him can do a lot more damage. And we've seen that damage, but I guess they don't figure they can be touched by any of these things. Really fast, Emily, I'm sorry. Here's the plot twist. Listen to the plot twist. Zeldin continued his planned campaign bus tour around the state on Friday, albeit with increased security. At a stop in Jordan, New York, outside of Syracuse, Zeldin sharply criticized Ms. Hochul for not pushing harder for changes to the state's bail laws and vowed to defeat her in November, despite Democrats' overwhelming electoral advantages in New York. Their arguments over the attack's implications in New York were the latest flashpoint in a long-running dispute over the state's public safety program and the effect of recent changes to the bail law. Here it is. The Zeldin campaign did not mention this. In the case of Mr. Jakubonis, the Monroe County district attorney could have chosen to charge him with a violent felony. They could have chosen to charge him with a violent felony, which would have qualified the case for potential bail and pushed to keep him behind bars. A spokeswoman for Sandra Doorley, the district attorney, declined to comment on whether bail would have been sought in a similar case under the law before 2020. The spokeswoman also said that Ms. Doorley, who is a co-chair of Mr. Zeldin's campaign, would recuse herself from the case. How dare Kathy Hochul not charge him with the big crime? How dare Kathy Hochul's laws don't do the right thing? How dare this DA? Oh, the DA is a co-chair of Lee Zeldin's campaign, didn't charge to the level that would require a bail, and now they're complaining about it.
Yeah, the bail law in New York is the subject of so much attention because people want it to be overturned, right? They decided we're gonna roll back cash bail. Cash bail's a terrible practice. You should not be put in jail before you're found guilty of a crime. We believe in innocent until proven guilty in the United States, just because you can't afford to get out. The bail is usually set at $1,000, $2,000. Most everyday people cannot afford that. And so the consequence is that you're put in jail for a period of time. You cannot take care of your family. You can't go to work. Many people lose their job before you're ever found guilty. But now people are saying, this is crazy. We're letting criminals go out onto the streets because oftentimes there are some rules, some probationary rules. People have to appear in court. They have to abide by a certain set of things if they're released on bail before trial. And if you don't show up to something because maybe you can't even afford a bus ticket. I have a friend who's a public defender. These are really common occurrences in New York. Now suddenly you're considered someone who has violated, your bail release, and now you can be found guilty of a felony. So before you're found guilty of a crime, now you're being convicted of a felony for simply violating your release on without bail before trial. It's insane.
It's like you don't have many options.
Yeah, you really don't. You really don't. And the way that they're criminalizing, this policy and saying we're letting criminals run amok is just another reason that's being used to grow our penal state, which is just scary.